Welcome to the Journey 2020. I'm Charles Morris, happy to be with you on this Monday evening. And you know, the journey is from me to you and from you to me so we can reach a higher level. And that's definitely what we're going to do today, because who we have in the house and I've been wanting to do this show for a while. And the funny thing is that when I talk with one and then when I talk with the other, I had actually forgotten that they know each other. So if you have watched the show, you know that I've had Dr. Woods on. And I have to say that every time Dr. Woods is on, the viewership on The Journey goes up. And I get lots of feedback. So today we're going to be enlightened and we're going to be educated. That's something that's very, very important. And one of the things that you realize is that when you hear Dr. Woods talk, and you're going to understand the passion he has about good health and being honest about our health. And I always laugh when he speaks at the Black Men's Health Summit, because he talks about the gentlemen that are overweight, but he kind of put it in a very nice way. But he let them know that you're fat. So, but he says it in a very nice way, kind of, sort of. But there's a tag team that's going on here, and I have two doctors, and I want to make sure that I pronounce Peter's name right. I told him that I have this dyslexia thing, Carnegie.
Carnegie, yes.
Carnegie, okay. And along with Dr. Woods, how you guys doing?
Great.
I'm nervous.
Nervous.
You set me next to Pete Carnegie,
Well,
a master.
Right.
He is a true doctor. I don't even play one on TV. I get to work with him, so I'm privileged and honored.
Right. Well, and having both of you guys on, and Pete, I started working with you, I think it was in 2013. I think you had called me from the links, and we did something. I think it was in 2013.
Yes, 2013.
All right. And, you know, Dr. Woods, I've been knowing him for over 20 years now, working with him, with Angela, with the Black Men's Health
Only
Center.
16.
Yes. Right. But, Dr. Woods, we're going to talk with you first because I want you to give us an update. We've talked about the P shot. We talked about the O shot, and the last time we were on, you were talking about is it gains weight? Right.
Yes,
Right. There was something else that you were bringing in, and that you were excited about, and people were asking me some questions. You know, I can't answer the questions, so I have to direct them to you, and they would like to know. We would like to know more about it and what's going on with the P shot and the O shot, in addition to the gains weight as well. So, where are we with the P shot and the O shot? Give us some updates.
Well,
I'm sorry. First of all, tell us both, for those who are tuning in for the first time, what is the P shot and what is the O shot? I'm sorry.
For those of you who don't know about God's natural healing properties for the penis, we have a procedure that's known as the P shot, which is the proper shot, and that takes its name basically from ancient history. But it has to do with taking something that you have in your body called platelets and getting them concentrated to the point that once we put them back into the body senses that there's an injury that has taken place. We've learned to take platelets and use them in different organ systems, from the teeth in the dentistry, in orthopedic, where it deals with joints, limbs, vertebrae, and even hard wound healing for the general surgeon. Mm-hmm. But we never thought that it could be a pathway for reconstituting, say, like the penis. And one of the problems with erectile dysfunction or even poor sexual performance is that men lose sensitivity, mm-hmm. men lose the ability to maintain girth or even length and turgidity during the time of intercourse. And all we've had for them is just medications. You've heard of Viagra, the Cialis, those types of things, which only gives an effect but don't really heal the broken vessel. Mm-hmm. So now if we inject the penis with those things that come from you. We take your blood, we spin it down, and now we concentrate that plasma and take the platelets in high concentration and give that solution back to you and activate it as though you've been injured. You begin to recruit stem cells and growth factors that creates a healing within that penis that we've never ever had before. And so you end up with better sensation, better nerves, better blood vessels. And the thing about the length and the girth is really true, because we get you doing some exercises to help to build the penis and sensitivity. What happens with the P-shot is you're able to get orgasms and sensation as though you were in high school. And for many of us in high school, we were not sexual because that was against the law. It was against the church law.
Wait a minute, wait, say that again? When we was in high school?
We were in high school, we were not supposed to be sexual because there were so many laws prevailing, keeping us from doing anything that was outside of the Bible and outside of the state law and outside of the confines of our parents' house. Otherwise, we get put out.
Okay.
So, therefore, here's an opportunity to go back in time and enjoy some of the things that you've had going on that you didn't know.
Okay.
And so then we've gone a step further with that to add on acoustical sound, acoustical waveforms. And you've seen the opera singer that will sing and she hits a high note and she hits that very high note and all of a sudden the glass will go pow, it pops. That's the acoustical vibrations of a waveform that causes fasciculation within the molecules of that glass that makes it unstable and it pops. So if we were to take that waveform, that sound wave, and harness it, and now we use it for, say, the penis, and we use that therapy in order to open up some of the vessels, open up tissues that is devascularized. And therefore, all of a sudden, if we hit those frequencies and that tissue feels as though, oh my God, as a wake-up call, it feels like it's been injured. Here we go again. Stem cells, growth factors are called in order to repair those broken vessels, repair that tissue to create a healing second to none. Now, as a surgeon, we can go in and put in penile prosthesis and do surgery all day. But one of the problems we have with that is we're giving you the ability to have a erect, hard penis. But what about the most important thing about sex is sensitivity? There's the senses that go back to your brain, the number one sex organ, to give you that feeling where you reach a pleasurable orgasm, like a cosmic level. And that's one of the things that this new frontier of treatment for the penis and also for the vagina that we do here as well has been fostering in.
Well, one of the things you didn't, I mean, you talked about the P-shot, but the O shot is
really taking the female and now reconstituting the vagina so that it's more friendly, with more contraction, more muscle tone, more sensitivity, better oil secretion, lubrication, and much better orgasms that they get. So that's what we're doing here at the Center for Urology. And Rejuvenation.
And you talk more about the gain waves?
The gain wave is what we call the acoustical sound wave treatment, and we use it for enhancing penile performance and also blood flow enhancement. When we talk about things that are coming out to help impotence, this is on the cutting edge, because we're still going through all types of trials and clinical things in order to understand how does it work for impotence. But we know one thing in particular is that as a urologist, we were one of the first to use acoustical sound waves in order to treat patients. And that is, when you come in with a kidney stone or a stone in the collecting system, we used to put you in a bathtub where we focus the sound waves in a focal unit, and it enhances such energy that it shadows the stone into the crystals and breaks it up into smaller particles. That's the same type of technology we're using, but instead of focal therapy, we're getting it where it's more uniform and not focal, and the same sound waves are penetrating the tissue. How did we learn that something was happening? We noticed that people that got shockwave lithotripsy, that is for kidney stones, that may have had some back trouble or say muscle spasm and things like that, all of a sudden after the treatment, like said, hey, I'm not having problems with my back. I'm not having trouble with my muscle spasms as I had before when I got this treatment. So the injury that's created from the focal point of the sound wave causes your tissue to rebuild itself and to heal itself.
Okay.
And that's what was going on. And so from German and Swiss technology, we've been able to take that, and here in this country, one of the leading groups is called the Gains Wave Group, which I'm a part of. And the group basically is still looking at research, doing creative things to use this as a treatment for increasing flow, blood flow. And as we increase blood flow, we simultaneously improve erections. We also have been able to treat men that have a curved penis called Peyronie's disease, where they get an erection, it won't stand straight up. And we've been able to break those plaques up and create healing in the penis using the Gains Wave technology. This technology is pretty much minimally invasive, no needles. We basically, when we do the technology of the Gains Wave, we put a local medication, like a numbing gel you get from the dentist, on the penis itself. And then it's more like someone tapping your skin, where you feel the little taps like a rubber band, but not as intense, because as you go through the treatment, your endorphins pretty much kick in, that you have less and less of that effect, and you feel very minimal anything. And we're learning about the maximum dosage to give, the treatment to give, the focal point, the energy to use to create the better result for that individual.
You know, you have to say hi to somebody, because they promised me that they was going to be tuning in, watching. I had a visit from Miss Dr. Angela Adams yesterday, and
Hello, the angel of love, Dr. Angela Adams.
But she said, while we were talking, she said, I'm going to go see Dr. Woods because he's supposed to shoot up my wrists to help it heal.
Yes, for plantar fasciitis, for back problems, the same technology that you get from the chiropractor, same technology that we're using on, like, we just had the big Kentucky Derby with the prize horses. They use sound wave technology in order to help them with their knees, ligaments, and that type of thing. So yes, this is the technology that's used to help with healing for sprains, muscle injuries, plantar fasciitis, for carpal tunnel issues, for shoulder, neck. Yes, same technology.
Okay, now we're going to connect the dots. How did you two meet? How did you two, how long you been knowing each other? How long?
Well, I met Dr. Woods in 2001.
Really?
When I first got started here in Orlando, I was working with Johnson & Johnson, a company called Ethicon Endosurgery, one of the Johnson & Johnson companies. And I met another Johnson & Johnson sales rep who was in the pharmaceutical world. And the first surgeon that she told me that I needed to meet was Dr. Woods.
Oh, okay.
So I was covering Central Florida at the time and just could never get up here. And well, one day I had taken a surgeon to the University of Miami, where they were doing a hand-assisted lap nephrectomy course. And I'd heard about Dr. Woods, and in walks this Dr. Woods, and I'd never met him before. The next thing we were talking about, having spent time in Germany, he was telling me about the opera. Of course, he was bigger than me and still is. So I was already impressed with the fact that he was a surgeon, knew that much about the opera, was a singer himself, and then all of the other things. His time in the military, we bonded immediately, became friends, and then you just can't believe it's 2017. It's been 16 years.
All right. Wow. Well, before the show ends, we're going to give you a chance to drop the mic, because we're going to have you saying a little something, and whatever you want to say. I know, right?
You know, I want to say something about Pete now. See,
Okay.
Pete told his side of the story. You know, my thing is that Pete comes up into my office as this impressive bodybuilder. And, you know, it's just that, you know, I'm very passionate about bodybuilding. I like bodybuilding. And it's just that when someone takes the time and gets it right. And so, you know, I want to know your recipe. What are you doing? How many times you're in the gym? What are you eating? He introduced me to products that I'd never heard of before. But the most important thing is Pete showed me that you can be a bodybuilder and build a healthy body just on vegetables.
Okay.
I just thought, come on. You can't do that, Pete. I don't believe it. This man showed me how he would be on stage, and we'd stay up midnight, Pete would show me how he'd do the water. I mean, he'd go from looking terrible to all of a sudden definition everywhere. And I became a believer in his products, his exercise regime, and the fact that you can actually grow a healthy body on vegetables. And that helped me bridge easily into a concept of how I treat patients today that have cancers. And one of the first things I do is to get them into a concept of eating like Pete. The vegetarian, looking at the meat types, looking at milk types, all these types of things. And one of the things that I learned from understanding Pete's success in modulating growth factors in his body is that, yes, it doesn't take much. We think about building muscle, you got to have meat, got to have this. He showed me that vegetable proteins were just as good as proteins from meat. He showed me the stability of how it works and the outcome. And seeing that with my eyes, when I started reading and having to train myself to be what I call a Euro nutritionist, I kept Pete in mind as to how he would serve his products, shake them up, his protein sources, his vitamins. And so that never left me, and so I began to package it up. So when I have patients under active surveillance for prostate cancer, part of what they have to hear is what Pete left in my soul, that you won't die from eating vegetables. You may end up having a new life. And that's one of the things that Pete showed me when I met him. He said 16 years ago, and I can't believe that I'm that young, you know, but it's been a long time when we met here that I guess he impressed my wife enough that we became good friends, that Pete, when I travel and go to seminars, Pete was always there to take me to places and be there for me. And then for workouts and for shows, I would go with Pete and watch him on stage and know what he had gone through in order to do that presentation. So that's one of the gifts that Pete brought to me that I use every day in my practice for teaching men how to make that change and how to modulate their DNA.
Okay, now one of the things that I said, because we're actually streaming live on Facebook right now as well, and I said that we're giving updates on health as well. I understand his passion in the sense of what he just said and how he understands the challenges. And I asked him about his patience, and the same for you, and how in this country and our culture that we're taught not to be healthy in the sense of our diets, that we love taking drugs to cover up what the issues and the problems are versus dealing with how to actually heal ourselves. So I asked you the same question that I asked in the last show. What is your biggest challenge on educating your patients about their health, and what is it that you try to do to help them better understand how to be healthy?
Well, once again, I'm definitely not a doctor, even though I've been in medicine a long time. But
I mean, when you talk with people, are you trying to educate them on how to be healthy, like you did him? So I'm saying the challenges that you face, and because I understand that we are just brainwashed in the sense of McDonald's, fast food, fried foods, all these things that we love, but we don't understand how to eat them. And modulations are cleansing, and just the important things of fruits and vegetables, and just how we really should eat properly, correctly, to live a vibrant life. You know, so I mean, he preaches it all the time. So, you know,
the challenges I think come from, it's as you said, we live in an instant society where you can get anything you want whenever you want, pretty much. But when they look at someone who is healthy and in shape, I mean, one of the things I admired about Dr. Woods, I remember working out with him a few times. Well, I shouldn't even say that. I tried to work out with him, let's put it to you that way. I think his warm-up weight was my max. So definitely stronger beyond anything I've been used to. But the easiest thing was living that example. So when they see that you come in and they find out that, listen, wait a minute, you actually compete in bodybuilding and you're a vegetarian, that's almost an oxymoron. You don't really hear about too many vegetarian bodybuilders out there, right, let alone those who compete against those who eat meat. And yes, we had to work harder, had to know more about it, but it was that physical presence that comes in with, wait a second, you're not someone that's just talking about it, you actually live that. That opens up the question, well, wait a second, well, how did you get where you are? A lot of people would ask me, well, are you on steroids? Absolutely not. Being in the military, you're always getting drug tested. And even in the industry today, the medical device industry, the hospitals now, you have to show that you've had drug tests, so we can't take those types of things. And but as a result, you're still healthy, you're still in shape, you still don't look like what people expect when they hear the word vegetarian. They think you're going to be emaciated or think you're going to be weak, but you're the antithesis of that. So that always starts the question, well, how? How did you get that way? And then once they have that question about how did you get that way, now we can start talking about the process. And that's where we get started. So it starts with first, being the part, looking the part, and then, well, if you look that way, how did you get that way? That opens up the mind to saying, well, if you can look like that, and you're not supposed to look like that being a vegetarian, well, how did you get there? And so I started working with a company called Beverly International years ago, and found that their supplements were the best I had ever worked with and ever used. The results were incredible. I think that was the majority. I was changing over to their supplements. I was already eating well enough, but needed that extra edge. And when I started working at Beverly International, instantly, within the first 24 hours, I had a different workout effect, documented everything, wrote an article on the experience that I had the first few months, and I was blown away by it. So that's really what got me started and hooked onto those types of good supplements. And that's also the last point is, you start realizing that not everything is created equal, that there are supplements out there that are not very good. Thank God that over the last 10 or 15 years, supplements have gotten better. But before, you could buy supplements that didn't have very good effect, waste a lot of money, and I'd done that before. But Beverly International took me to a whole different level, allowed me to compete against those who were, some that were on drugs and still do well enough to bring a trophy home and be happy with the time that I spent. So
okay. Well, the funny thing is that I've actually have texted Dr. Woods, and I've texted you, and I received a text back say I was in surgery, so I can't talk. I couldn't talk at the moment. So you're gonna have to tell us what you do. Sure. So like I said, I have received texts from the both of you and said I was in surgery, so I couldn't respond at the time. So yeah.
The difference is he's actually the one performing the surgery. We're the ones supporting the doctors and the teams that perform. So I'm the CEO of Minimally Invasive Solutions Consulting, and we do two things. We help to develop successful robotic surgery programs in hospitals with the primary focus of cardiothoracic surgery. We can do the other specialties, but our primary focus is cardiothoracic surgery. The second thing that we do is we help hospitals develop robotic surgery training programs and medical device companies develop training programs. And so our clients have been the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, West Virginia University, East Alabama Medical Center. There's a variety of different hospitals that we've worked with, and our medical device companies that we've worked with are Mazor Robotics, that has a home office here in Orlando. They're one of our robotic clients. Immacore Monitoring. So both of those companies are using our training programs to help develop clinically independent sales reps so they can support surgeons like Dr. Woods with the technology and the expertise to help him get through a case and provide a good effect for that patient. So that's what we do in a nutshell.
Now, I met you because of the STAR program. Okay, so why don't you tell us about the STAR program?
Sure. STAR stands for the Symposium on Science, Technology, and Advanced Robotics. We started planning STAR in 2012. Since Minimally Invasive Solutions Consulting is the first robotic surgery consulting company, to the founders, it was important for us that since we were the first, that there is a responsibility that we felt. If you're going to be the first or the pioneer in something, then there, in our minds, is a responsibility to not only share that knowledge, but also to become a gateway for others to experience that technology and possibly find their passion. So we started planning in the middle of 2012, And how do we figure out a way to get high school and college students to interact with the technology, to talk with professionals that were both doctors, nurses, physicians assistants, or sales representatives, managers, leaders, executives? How do we get them to interact with these STEM professionals, work on $2 million robots, and possibly find their passion? One of the things that we found is that the United States is not doing very well in producing STEM professionals. The last research I had done, we were 19th in the world.
Okay.
We're having to outsource a lot of our STEM professionals, engineers, doctors, et cetera, which is great because it gives countries a chance to bring or to send doctors here and to study here and to treat our patients. But it also creates a scenario in which our own students miss out on a chance to go into those professions. And so
I don't want to, well, I don't want to interrupt you, but I'm going to ask this question. Based on what you're saying, and we're 19th in the world, because when people are hearing what you're saying, and people may not even understand what you're talking about in the sense of the technology and the medicine. So can you help us better understand what that means? Because when you're saying what you're saying, and people are going like, what is he really talking about? And what does that mean, 19th in the world?
Sure. So each country receives a rating on the types of STEM professionals, science, technology, engineering, and math, that they produce. And so when we look at the number of engineers, the number of doctors, the number of STEM professionals that are created across the globe, each country is ranked. And when we did the research initially in October of 2012, we found out that the United States was ranked 19th. In other words, we're 19th of other countries in the world that produce STEM professionals.
Okay. Now, well, this is what I'm trying. When you say STEM, I'm asking the both of you, what does that mean to us in the sense when you say STEM? Because when people go, well, STEM, what exactly is STEM in the sense of the technology and medicine? So I'm asking the both of you, what is?
Tell him slowly. Science, technology. Just tell him slowly.
Well. I mean, because in the last few years you've been hearing about STEM,
Exactly.
but I guarantee you the average person does have no idea what that means. So that's what I mean in the sense of medicine and the technology and where we're trying to go with it. Sure.
So as you look at all the different types of sciences that are out there, from biology to chemistry to, and then your engineering, your electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, your doctors, your nurses. When it comes to technology, it's your software engineers, IT professionals, those who produce the cameras and even the lights. We're producing fewer of those types of professionals than we were in the past. Other countries have surpassed us, and as a result, I think part of it has to do with the instant society that we're in. These students they want to play a video game, but they don't necessarily want to learn how to code to create that video game, thereby creating a profession for themselves. Yes, it's easy to buy a $60 or $70 game and be instantly gratified by playing it, but there's hundreds and thousands of hours that go into creating that game as a result of having to produce code and create sprites and do the programming component. So how do we inspire these young people to go into that profession, thereby creating a livelihood for themselves and then their future families? And so science, technology, engineering, and math, thanks to President Obama, who set aside quite a bit of funding for each state to invest in STEM education at all ages to help better position the United States so we can not be 19th, but we can continue to move our way up towards number one in the ability to produce these STEM professionals. There are jobs that are going unfilled because we are not producing enough students who are majoring in STEM professions. And so our goal was to, through robotics, not only just robotics in medicine, but also in order for us to have robots, we have to have the engineers that design it, we have to have the programmers who program it, we have to have the engineers that repair them, we have to have folks who are involved in imaging technologies, etc. If we want to continue to develop the best and the latest technologies, we need to have high school students go and major in college in the STEM curriculum and then go on to become STEM professionals so we can continue to innovate and produce a kind of technology to keep us ahead.
All right, so STAR, which I know is trying to educate them as probably young as middle school, high school, trying to introduce them.
Yes.
Right. So can you talk more about how you have gotten, I think, with Links and Jones and FAMU and Cookman and some other colleges as well?
Sure. So well, thanks to the Nicholson Center, Tony Nicholson had a vision to develop a training center for medical professionals, doctors, nurses, etc. A few years ago, we had this idea to start STAR. We needed a facility that had all of these technologies in one place, and then permission to bring those middle school students, high school students, and college students to see this technology, but more important than just to see it, to interact with it themselves, to touch it. I remember when I was growing up, my parents didn't want me to touch anything that had technology related to it because it was so expensive. They were concerned that if I broke it, they couldn't replace it.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
So imagine, I would have never had a chance to sit down at the $2 million Da Vinci surgical system back then. But through STAR, we now have these students that not only sit down at a $2 million robotic system, but will dissect an animal heart as a high school student. Or an undergraduate will come and go through a cadaver lab where they will do a CABG operation, coronary artery bypass graft operation, which is designed to reestablish blood flow to blocked arteries in the heart. They'll also do a cadaver lab in which they get a chance to repair a mitral valve, which is one of the most important of the 4 valves inside the heart. They're doing this as an undergraduate. They're able to get access to the technology from Mazor Robotics, which is used for correcting spine deformities or degenerative spine disease. The surgeons now can straighten a spine that is crooked by implanting screws in the different vertebral bodies, and then in the center of that screw, the top of the screw, there's a hole. They'll actually place a rod through those holes and turn a child whose spine has been, because of poor genetics, has been bent so much so that they've lost 6 or 7 inches of height. Following the operation, they've gained that height back as a result of having their spine straightened, thanks to this technology from Israel. And then now they're using that Mazor Renaissance system for implanting chips into the brain to treat patients who have Parkinson's disease. They actually did the first case here at Celebration where they treated a patient who had OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. So with these types of technologies, students, I have residents who wouldn't get access to this technology, either because the hospital doesn't have it or because they're residents. They were going to let a resident get on a $2 million robot. We now have high school students and undergraduates who are spending 2 to 3 hours on this technology and hopefully finding their passion for STEM profession, whether it's going to be as a surgeon like Dr. Woods using this technology to heal a patient, or if it's going to be as an engineer who is going to design the next generation of robotic technology, or improve the imaging system, or integrating imaging systems with the robotics to be able to see through your body without, and be able to navigate through the body to find where the tumors are and to do those types of things. We need those engineers to continue to develop this technology. We need doctors to envision, how can I treat a patient better? Well, if you did this with your technology, I could see the tumor better, I could find it faster. Well, we need that integration between the medical field and the engineers and the programmers and those who fix the robots, et cetera. We need to continue to feed students into those fields so we can have this technology.
Okay, I actually have a video that I can show you about how you do what you do in the sense, if you can kind of walk us through, if you can take a look here and tell us what's going on here.
Sure. So this is Mr. Robbie Breedlove. He is director for training for Mazor Robotics. And what you see in the field is a human form that has behind him on the screen, you'll see it's a human form of a body in which they place a model of the spine. And he is instructing the students, and you can see one of the students there has scrubs on. And as he goes through the anatomy and explains to them what are the current problems with the spine that they're treating with this technology. And the goal is to provide them with a quick overview of the technology. And this group will then go on to there's a laptop that or they can actually plan this on the robotic system themselves. But they'll actually plan a spine operation having never even been in a spine case.
Yeah, that's actually coming up. I think he's going to have some students come up, and they're going to go through. I think he's going to call them up now. But this right here is he's showing them.
So what you're seeing is they've actually taken an X-ray of the spine, a CT scan of the spine, and they're looking at each vertebral body independently. And on that laptop or on the system itself, and it's just a traditional laptop that they upload their proprietary software to, they actually can select the right view in 3 dimensions, determine where they're going to place those screws into the spine to straighten that spine. And by the time he's finished, the students will actually go on the laptop, they will plan that operation in this session, and then take that into the lab and execute that. And what you saw initially was a small little green, looked like a soda can. That actually is the robotic system. That is what is placed onto the spine using a bridge. And that bridge has numbered segments on it. And the program that they've actually planned, or the procedure that they've planned, will tell them what vertebral body that they'll be working on and what station to put that little Coke can sized robot.
Now, are those actual screws right there?
Exactly.
Those are those are actual screws.
That's for a procedure that was done previously. And so what he has in his left hand actually is the Renaissance system. What's to his left, that robotic arm to his left, is the Renaissance X. It's the new generation of robotic system from Mazor. And so now a student is coming up and is getting a chance to interact with the system. And this is the hands-on component that is so important to start. Today's young people, it's much easier for them to learn. I think it's overall, hands-on is the best method of learning something. And so now they called her out of the audience to come and actually see how simple and easy it is to place the robotic system onto the platform, and then be able to now look at the plan that they have created, and then determine what is the best way to approach placing that screw. Now inside that green little Coke can sized robot are 7 actuators. And so based on the right angle that they need to place the screw into the spine, that little technology there will move such that what they're doing is they're screwing on a component that allows them to drill through a hollow tube. So they're screwing that on right now. That will allow the surgeon to place the drill through that hollow tube.
I'm sitting here and I'm feeling kind of funny now because I'm thinking about screws and I'm hearing drilling and I'm hearing rods, but I'm kind of.
It's amazing what the orthopedic surgeons are able
and
to
she's tapping.
Yes. So those are actual things that they would be doing in a surgery if you were to go to Celebration right now and see Dr. Zarawi, who has a tremendous amount of experience with this system. This is exactly what he would be doing in the operating room. This allows the surgeons to operate both in a minimally invasive way, where they only have to make incisions big enough.
Right, because she just put a rod.
Yes.
So that's actually going down the spine, or
that's going to go right. Actually, that shows the guide path. They'll tap that in to create a small little hole in the vertebral body.
Ouch. Okay.
So that's like a pilot hole for a screw, and that they'll take that out and actually they'll place a drill.
Well, okay.
Right through that rod. Now the great thing about this is that the accuracy that's achieved by looking at a 3-dimensional vertebral body, the accuracy that's achieved here is sub 1 millimeter.
Okay, because she just took that one out and she just put that one in.
Yes, so she replaced it, and then now they are Actually, in this particular case, they're going to leave that rod in to show where that screw trajectory is going to be.
Okay.
So some surgeons will do one at a time, go from the left side of the vertebral body to the other side. Others will do all the screws first, or do all from one side, and then do. So they'll do the left side of the screws first, and then do the other side as the second part of the operation. So
now that is what's sticking out. Please explain that for me, because
they call the orthopedic surgeons. Essentially they're the mechanics of the operating room, because essentially they're working with rigid structures.
Okay.
And in order for them to fix a rigid structure that is not doing what it's supposed to, or not shaped the way it's supposed to, they've got to use things like screws and rods. In this particular case, they're leaving that thin piece of metal to show where the drill hole is.
Okay.
And so that would be replaced by the actual drill that would go through the rod that they or go through that little metal tube that was hollow. Mm-hmm. They place the drill through there. And what's amazing about that is that the reduction in the error that comes from having planned the operation on a computer. Mm-hmm. They can see the vertebral body in 3 dimensions and spin it around and find the perfect angle so that the screw doesn't go into the central canal between the brain and the body. If you get into that canal, then you can effectively damage the nerves downstream of where you've violated that canal. So this particular technology allows them to plan the perfect angle for that screw, so they have the reduction in the potential of creating a problem.
Right. I see the little robotic arm, whatever it is moving.
So this is the next generation, called the Renaissance X.
Okay.
The first generation you see in the student's right hand, they had to place that robot onto the bridge, or that mounting, what they call a mounting platform. Mm-hmm. With the Renaissance X, they no longer need the mounting platform. They can plan the operation, mm-hmm. and that arm now will move and achieve the perfect angle, mm-hmm. based on the surgical plan, so that when they drill into the spine, they have the same or similar accuracy as with the older technology. Now I say older, and all I mean is that there's a first generation, it's a small green Renaissance system, and then the next generation is the Renaissance X. So now we see the next generation of technology, which allows them to not have to worry about using a mounting platform. Okay. They now can plan the operation, register where that arm needs to be, and it will go to the right location, so it improves efficiency when it comes to planning and executing the operation. So they have both generations of technology at the Nicholson Center, and they also have 5 Da Vinci surgical systems there as well. Mm-hmm. They have 11 mimic technology simulators, which teach the doctors, or they use for developing their skill with the Da Vinci system. Mm-hmm. The simulation technology is incredible because it allows us to practice before working on a patient.
Okay, I actually have video of that. I'm going to show that too. But I want to ask you, both of you. Well, I'm going to ask you, Dr. Woods, seeing something like that and watching it in a procedure, a surgery like that, what is the healing time? What is the healing time? And is it something that's extremely painful when it's done? I'm just, because when I'm thinking about the drilling and the holes and I'm watching it, I'm like, ooh, boy, that looks like that's going to be something extremely painful.
But Charles, you have to look at it this way. Mm-hmm. When we become minimally invasive, mm-hmm. to maybe a millimeter mm-hmm. of something that we're using, mm-hmm. think about the limitation of pain receptors mm-hmm. in nerves.
Okay.
Unlike in our traditional surgeries where we were making big incisions,
trust me,
those things.
I know. I was about a year away from the I got the big cuts versus the little holes. Right. I got the little holes like 3 years later.
So you can see what happens when we locally block a plexus, a blocking area, and just work in millimeters versus centimeters.
All right.
It's a big difference. Mm-hmm. And then when you have less pain stimulation by the body, think about what your endorphins do and your body does as a whole to heal rapidly. Mm-hmm. All right, and then think about what that does for a patient who's now up, out of the hospital, moving around, mm-hmm. versus long ago to do that with fixators, all types of contractions to move the patient until the wounds heal. To now they can now test to see how well if it holds. And many times something may slip, the screws may not hold, but with this technology, putting screws in to the point that the computer knows how many rotations, it knows the length, it knows the depth, and all this is fed into the computer, and that shows you where we are going. That now, as you see people standing around, what he's helping us to embrace is the manless surgical ORs that we're going into operation. We're getting into telemedicine now.
Okay.
And therefore, with the advent, when the military created the robotic system, it was because we had less specialists to put out on the battlefield to do surgeries. So how can we get surgeries done where I can be sitting in a room with a computer and I can maybe manage 3 or 4 surgeries at one time?
Wow.
So now the whole frontier comes to, as they minimize and as we get into smaller and smaller components, think about the number of people that can be operated on or treated for a disease in such a minimum way, all right, to get the outcome. Then number 2, we take that a little further as he's getting children into what we call the STAR. And looking at our deficiency as a country, well, we forget that everything is mathematics. Think about now the waveform that we are broadcasting this program, which we can't see. The same waveform that would be used to transmit an operation where he could be sitting here, you know, ready for the plane to take off, but he got 15 minutes so he can get that case done. He's somewhere, could be in Paris. And so the case comes up, and just like your children play with video games, and now you're seeing all the stuff with video games where the movement, the articulation, mathematics. So you're showing the merger of all these technologies, why math is important. And you saw the film that came out this year showing us this sister who plotted the course, you know, to get to the moon and all of the Mars orbit, you know, where Glenn say, I'm not getting in that capsule unless she plots the course. Mathematics, unchanged. Frequency, unchanged. But now we're tapping in it to the point that we were talking before the broadcast about nanos.
Right.
And how we're going to be able to manipulate. Just think with this device and others, encoding things into the vertebrae that may stimulate enough waveform to cause what we say the platelets or the stem cells to be recruited to begin to heal and make a new vertebrae.
Okay.
So we're moving into that frontier of less and less of seeing me as the doctor in my office, but you calling me up on your smartphone. Am I using my 3D printer to maybe print the defect and now show you what I can do? On a 3D printer, these people doing the ortho, urology, gynecological, cardiac surgery, we can now show you graphically what we can do. And you can actually print it on yours and hold it and see how it's going to look when it's finished. That's the new frontier of medicine, but we need some recruits. We need people in it that can get their hands wet. And it's not like the big mainframe computers. It's like the iPhone. Surgery's going to be performed on these little gadgets because, again, frequency, waveforms that have never changed from the beginning of time.
Okay, Peter, you can kind of walk us through what's going on here. I know earlier, I think he was making reference to this.
Absolutely. This is Mr. Tarb Larson from Mimic Technologies. This is the second floor of the Nicholson Center. They have a sim center up there. So in this room, there are 11 desktop units that are what they call the Da Vinci Trainer, DVT. And so this is a standalone simulation technology that we currently have students who are going to go through a series of exercises. Now, the exercises that they do in the simulated environment are the exact same exercises that we have the surgeons do when they're training to become robotic surgeons. And so our goal here is to expose the students, take them through about 2 hours worth of simulation training, and then take them downstairs where the cadaver lab is, where they get a chance to then execute what they've learned on a cadaver.
Right. So
There is no other event like this in the world, and the reason why I can say that confidently is because we've talked to the companies like Mimic Technologies, and they are not doing anything like this anywhere else.
so he's it looks like he's picking up jacks
Absolutely.
and putting them in the circle.
So this is designed to improve dexterity, control, also to help them to learn how to manipulate something that doesn't exist in the real world, that only exists in the virtual world, without having to look at their hands. And so they're being scored on a series of metrics here. And so part of that exercise was to pick up a certain color jack and put that in the corresponding color dish.
Okay.
So it's recognizing structures and then being able to move them into the right place while using both of their hands. Additionally, it helps them to manipulate both instrument arms at the same time. Instead of doing one at a time, they could actually use both their hands like surgeons do today all the time.
Right. So it's really, for the kids, it's basically like playing the video games.
Exactly. Even easier than that, because your typical video games have a controller in which they're pushing a lot of buttons and moving their fingers.
Right.
These robotic systems and these simulators use a master control system that is, for lack of a better term, it's intuitive. It moves like you move. So you just have to reach out and grab something. So essentially, what the students were doing is they were using a manipulator that allowed them to reach forward, grab something, and then move it back. So it literally takes about 30 seconds to learn how to interface and how to use these systems. Much easier than a video game. I can promise you, to play a video game today would be an embarrassment.
All right. I mean, I was watching them, and this is my second time going there, seeing the kids, and and I'm watching them do this. As a matter of fact, I think they kind of put them on a timer.
Yeah, they're tracking all of the metrics there,
right,
exactly, to see how fast and how efficient they are.
And eventually you're going to see the little like he's doing. I'm not quite sure what he's doing, but that's different. That's different, right?
So now they have to pick up with numbers and letters and put them in. And using also, you can notice that they're manipulating the camera as well. So they're learning how to drive the camera and use both of their hands. If they drop one, for example, they fail the exercise.
Oh,
so they've got to do it again. We don't want them to drop needles. We don't want them to drop needles while they're working inside the body, especially with a robot where they don't have a large incision. They can find it quickly. If you drop it.
Yeah, so that's what I was trying to see, the little, how they're using their fingers, and what they're using.
Absolutely. These are the master controllers there, and this particular system has they're wire driven. And so as they move their hands, the instruments move along with them. And that what you just saw is they have to target their camera and move that camera, because camera control is essential for navigating the procedures. They got to be able to see what they need to operate on, optimize the view that they have so they can do the best incision, do the best reconstruction, do the best possible operation.
Yeah, and it looks like that simulation was like she was somewhere inside the body.
Yes.
All right.
So what this company has done is created what they call augmented reality procedure-based training. And so they actually have surgical procedures, prostatectomy, hysterectomy, nephrectomy, in which they can actually practice that operation in a simulated environment before even going down to a lab. Okay. So this is where things are going. As Dr. Woods was mentioning, we actually can have the ability, or will soon have the ability, to take a CT scan of a patient that's going to have surgery next week, upload that into a simulator, operate on that patient before they ever show up to the hospital, and increase the chance that we're going to do the best operation the first time. We'll be able to find if they have a blood supply that's non-normal. And as a result, instead of finding that out the day of the surgery and you get into bleeding, now you'll know that there's a blood vessel where it's not supposed to be, and you can avoid those problems.
Well, that's kind of like what you just said, Dr. Woods, in the sense that, as far as you were saying, I guess there's surgery before surgery.
Yeah, and Charles, one of the conversations we were having before is that what he's telling you is not a new project. And as I said to him, in some of our think tanks with the military, we have a recovery team on the battlefield that's all robotic.
Okay.
And as he's showing you these techniques that the students are going through, imagine a casualty on the battlefield today and an unmanned helicopter or whatever comes in robotically to control the situation.
Now, this guy right here, I think he's looking at something in 3D.
Absolutely.
Right.
This is the latest technology from Mimic Technologies. This is a portable simulator that is smaller than your suitcase. And so it is actually launching this month.
Right.
This particular student from FAMU is getting a chance to try it. This is one of the prototypes. And so what he's looking at through 3D glasses is a 3D representation of what they would see in part of these exercises. And so is one of the few students that got a chance to see what the latest technology is. And here's,
I mean, I don't want to cut you up, but I'm looking at his fingers and the controls, and now I look down with his Nikes, and he's doing something with his feet.
And as you can see there, what we didn't see with the other simulator was there is a foot switch assembly that allows the student or the doctor to actually switch between using the camera and the instrument arms, or refine his or her motion by using this thing called a clutch. Also, monopolar energy, bipolar energy can be effectively used and manipulated by using the foot pedal as well, based on the instrument. So they get a chance to practice all this as undergraduate, as high school students, and hopefully inspired to either go into medicine as a profession or go into those STEM professions that will help us to develop the next generation of technology like this.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the future, but what do you see? I'm asking the both of you. I mean, for us, the common person, we're sitting there and we're thinking like this is something new, but in what you're saying that it's not new.
No, it's not, and that's what Pete and I were talking about. You know, the government has financed a lot of these prototypes, and it's just that even in recovery on the battlefield, where it's really difficult to recover casualties, and that's some of the first models what we've had. Maybe I think we're up to our third prototype on recovering and doing emergency resuscitation just with robots, and robots that can actually take the pulse, sensor things, and then using certain types of therapies that we have, like the ultrasound, the high frequency ultrasound, to actually stop bleeding in the casualty. And as he was talking about, even with us in radiation, where we do radiation simulation for the prostate and treating, the computer is the golden standard. MRI, where we can take those images and pre-simulate them, and once we do that, we can create the real environment to make sure that we are successful much better than we've been in the past. Because with the CT, we can do the 3D imaging, and MRI the same thing. And if we can lay that into a simulator computer, just as this. The other thing you get into is if you want to grow the alphas of surgery, then you put them in the simulators. The simulator is going to train them at the same time and compare them for the pros and the cons, and therefore help them to improve upon comparing the group. So now we have a way of teaching surgeons and teaching doctors where it's not biased, as far as the observer saying, I saw you do this, or you missed something. Imagine all this is recorded digitally in the computer, so your hand movement, your timing, your placement, is easy to compare with people that you're working with. So that with the day that you leave that simulator, you can become the greatest surgeon ever, because now it can put simulation of, say, one of the best prostate robotic surgeons out there, and now keep up with this. Here's what he's doing, follow this. And that's just like the video games do. And so you're teaching people, say for instance, you got a doctor in a remote area. Now he's becoming an exceptional surgeon, because now what you're giving him is real live stuff to do, to work on, before he's out stuck in Timbuktu. Or you can just press a button and let the doctor that's in Orlando do the case while he's somewhere in a remote area. So we're getting more and more to that now, because think about it, it's hard to educate and train new doctors.
Okay.
It's about $500,000 plus to get through med school.
Wow.
So
Right.
when you look at economy of scales, where are we going to get the people to actually do these things? How are we going to keep up with the surgeries? How are we going to keep up with the healing ministries that we all have? And this is one of the things. Computer technology is it.
Okay. I want to ask you, Pete, but we're actually running out of time, but for what you have seen in the STAR program when you dealing with the young kids, and I know you told me a very successful story about a young man who was in the program, but I'm asking you, with your experience, what are the usual response that you have from the kids that's coming in for the very first time and they've gone through this and they've seen it? It's like, what is usually the response that you get?
Well, they're completely blown away. When we stand up there at the beginning of the STAR event and we tell them that if you're on the medical track, you're actually going to do heart surgery on a cadaver, there's not that much belief in what they're going to do. And then when they scrub up and they go in and there's a cadaver on the table, we walk them through the anatomy and they actually get a chance to make incisions, dock the robot and start mobilizing a mammary or open the atrium and start repairing a mitral valve. They're completely blown away. And so our goal is to leapfrog their understanding of what it would like to be a surgeon using a robot. And so
okay, so there's a parent somewhere right now watching, going, "Oh, I want my child to. I need to find out more about this. And, I would like to push my children. I like to push my child in this direction." So how can they get in contact with STAR? What do they need to do to find out more about this program?
So a couple of things. Number one, the Mount Sinai Education Committee, which is located in downtown Orlando, is a part of the Mount Sinai Seventh-day Adventist Church, is one place that they can find out about the Symposium on Science, Technology, and Advanced Robotics. We have a YouTube channel that has videos as well, so they can do a search for Symposium on Science, Technology, and Advanced Robotics and find us there. You can also reach out to the Nicholson Center, since this is where we had the majority of our programs. We're actually taking it outside the Nicholson Center as well, off-site, but we'll always have a home at the Nicholson Center. We're always doing events there. We're continuing to expand, so they can find out about STAR from the Nicholson Center as well. Since that's where we hold it. So we'd love to see you out there. Okay.
All right. Well, gentlemen, before we leave, you got to give us, if we want to contact and find out more about the P-Shot, the O-Shot, and the Gainwave, where can we find out more information about that? Dr. Woods?
I'm still stuck on STAR. Because science and no longer science fiction intrigues me. And it's just that if you want to be part of this new generation that Pete is now ushering in and helping the young people to be a part of, and for you older people who are trying to hold on to your sexuality and all of that, look at what's happening to technology. We're talking about stuff that's happening with frequency computers, and then going back to the beginning story of Genesis, using your platelets. And therefore, in order to be able to do these things, what Pete has now helped us to see is that not only does he practice the vegetarian body, but he's bringing in technology that's going to keep us looking good, because we don't have to have those big incisions anymore. And surgery can be something that's done in a few minutes, and we're out the door regaining our health, and then calling Dr. Woods to say, I want to schedule a P-Shot, because now I can truly enjoy the orgasms that the P-Shot will bring, or the O-Shot will bring. And Dr. Woods, I want to undergo your acoustical waveform, because you know what? I've been suffering with this back, and Pete just calls me to see that there's something very minimally invasive there. For those that are suffering with heart issues and need valve surgery, prostate issues, Pete has made it clear. My thing is no argument with Pete. As you can see, he told you I've known him for 16 years, and I'm still a youngster because I've been following the gospel according to Pete Carnegie, and that is to reference the body as a temple. But not only as God has blessed Pete to reference that, he has given Pete a head that I can't find on anybody's body, full of such knowledge and passion to help those. And Scripture tells us, suffer the children to come unto me and forbid them not. And that is one of the crown jewels of a chosen prince, as Pete, who has now built a great corporation and now is coming back to bring on education in the communities, not just for minorities, but all children, to hear that we do need them in the forefront of technology.
All right. Well, I want to thank the both of you for taking the time out to coming on the show, enlightening us, educating us, and doing what you do. I really, really appreciate it. You know, it's just like every time I get a chance to talk to you guys, I'm like, wow, I'm so blown away. You know, my brothers, brothers. Yeah. Not only that you're making a difference, not only that you care. So thank you so much for your passion. Thank you so much for all that you do, you know, for all of us, you know, and you're educating on how we can live a better life.
And we thank you, Charles.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yes, you're a great man. That's why I'm here, because of your passion.
Well, hope that you learned something. I know I did, and you can rewatch the show probably in a couple of days. We would have more information up, contact information as well. And then for those who are very familiar with the Youth Central and the Youth Summit that we do every year, we're going to try our best to make a star part of the summit this year. So that's up and coming. So look forward to that. I'm Charles Morris. Tune in next week to the Journey 2020, www.thejourney2020.com. Enjoy your week.